everyone, everyone who's joining from all around the world. Once again, it's nice to be back after a very long time with a very special guest in the house. It's an absolute pleasure to have him, on a very special request. He had a huge blast of a show the last time, he appeared on my show, perhaps the most successful, most meaningful, most enlightening show that, I ever had. And Sunilaya, once again, big thank you to coming back on the show. It's absolute, as I always say, it's an honor and a pleasure to have you on the show. And today I hopefully that we'll have another very meaningful discussion stored for you in the next few minutes or next 1 hour or so. That's the plan, that that we'll talk something very fruitful, something beneficial to all who's listening. And big welcome to everybody who's joining from all over the world. I know it's a public holiday in Sri Lanka, Sunilai. It's a very important full moon day, December, day after Christmas, and it's a big day. People celebrated today, Boxing Day. Hopefully people are at home, relaxed and rested, and waiting to listen to you. Okay, let's start, Sunilai, without further ado. We spoke last time, and we covered a lot of areas. We spoke about your exciting cricketing career, which we decided not to talk about today, and so that's something in the past. We are here to discuss what actually transpired. At what point in your life that the new path that you have taken. I don't know. I will not put words in your mouth, Sunilai. I wouldn't call it a spiritual awakening or self-transformation or whatever you call it. And if you could tell people that where it all started, how it happened, what prompted you to take this path and to become who you are today. Once again, welcome, Sunil. It's all to you.
Thank you, Charit. I had a great influence because of my father. He had written about 4 books on Buddha's teaching. So his influence was a great thing. But inside me, when I was 10 years old, a bicycle ran over me. And the first thought I came was, if I died, how can I inform my father and mother? And that was the first spiritual awakening, because the fear of death. What is death? Who am I? What am I? And that came at a very early age. But time to time, it keeps growing. These are the people I have asked many people who meditate and are seriously wanting to go towards Nibbana. They've all had very similar experiences. Either the fear of death or seeing somebody, just like the Buddha. Until he saw the 4 signs, he was happy. When he saw the 4 signs, it woke him up. So some sign in your life has to wake you up. If it doesn't wake you up, you'll be just enjoying your senses until you spend 20 years, 30 years, you still keep dancing, 40 years, you still go dancing, 50, 60, and when you come to about 70, with luck, then your senses are deteriorating. Then when something happens, it's damn too late. Because you have only known the world with the senses. You have no idea what's going to be after death. And all these questions, they're called the existential questions. They come up. And if you don't have that, there can be people who just swim into the deep water and they might get themselves into a path. But this is a very, very necessary. That's what I feel. It has to burn inside you. It has to be a burning question inside you. Until it burns you very hot, then you know something has to be done. That's how it comes.
So you mean to say that that you need at some point, it's a very interesting thing that you said, Sunil. In Sri Lanka. Now, does this relate to what you say? Something needs, you need awakening, say the inspiration, whatever, to follow this path. Is it something that said in the Bible? I'm just asking about it. It's like a born again kind of feeling that You mean that every person needs to be something that happens in your life that you see the other side of the spectrum? How is that how it works?
No, it's a existential question within you. It has to come inside within you. Why am I? Who am I? Where am I going? What do I do when I die? Where do I go when I die? All these things are called the existential questions. What is the purpose of my existence? Make merry? Tomorrow I'm old. I can't do the same thing I did. So, is this the purpose of life? There has to be a purpose of life. And the Buddha says the only justification of life is to attain to Nibbana. The only justification. So, this justification has to come with some spark inside you.
You're right.
And that spark is an existential spark. That is the reason.
Right. So what you're saying is, this kind of awakening can happen to any person at any stage in life. There's no black and white. Say one can't put a finger on it and say, okay, this person is on a spiritual
No.
path that that he's likely to take this path. And I mean, it can happen. I mean, someone can get up next day morning, and something that can trigger that the whole process of that the process on. That's what you're saying.
Yes, you see, these questions come up in nearly everybody. I feel this existential question, the fear, the anxiety, they come up in everybody. It's quite normal. But when this fear and anxiety comes, they existential philosopher will say there is no answer. But many people they don't even search for an answer. So what they do is they believe in some entity. It's in the hands of somebody else. It's not in my hands. And they forget about it. They keep forgetting. But they themselves has no desire to go on and look for a path. So it doesn't mean which country you're from, it doesn't mean which nationality or religion or anything. These questions, they do exist in every human being. But will they awaken? That's another question.
So you mentioned the fact that this self questioning, that self doubting, that it happened to you at a very young age. So you mean to say that even the time you were a professional cricketer, though we decided not to talk about cricket, it's I think it's an integral part of your life that which cannot be ignored. So throughout your career, did you have this the spiritual side of it when you played cricket, or it's just got?
Of course, of course. I will tell a classic example. I was playing a club match, SSC match. I was a captain. I scored 100. I won the match. Party. Oh, we are champions. We had a nice time. I went to bed, still with the euphoria, still with this feeling of happiness and joy and everything. All of a sudden, like a balloon getting pricked, this burst, this burst, this happiness just went away. Then I said, so what is this? With all the happiness I had, I could maintain it.
Mhm.
So what is it? Then I realized this is only transient. It's just for a while. As long as the wind blows, it's fine. But then it's gone. In everything in life, I began to realize all these things are just transient. It's just moving away. We cannot hold on to them. Now, is there a question? Is there an answer to that question? Of course, yes. That's the Buddha's teaching.
So
That's the
now,
answer to that.
so that's is that the reason that you sort of embarked on a life, like on you dedicate your time, like I know that most of the time I have spoken to you that you have a very strict regime how you program your day-to-day life, and The how it's meditation. It's a very important aspect of this whole thing.
100%. 100%. I wouldn't know how to live otherwise. I just wouldn't know how to live otherwise. And you begin to realize you can dance until you can dance. But when you can't, you are sad about it. But if you realize that it's going to happen, then you are going to do something about it, correct?
Yep.
So then you're going to reverse the course. And that's what I did. I reversed the course when I was 35 years of age because I realized this cannot go on. This cannot go on. I cannot go on like I see others. I see my grandfather. I see my grandmother. They are getting old. They die. I see them. So is it going to happen to me? Of course, yes. In the sadness. All these are keeps disturbing your mind. Now, is there an answer to this? Yeah. That's the time I went in search. And of course, my father had a great influence on me. He came to me and said, I think I must have been about 25. He took me to his library and said he had read every philosopher, every religion. He had the Bible, the New Testament, the Old Testament, he had the Quran, he had all the existential philosophers. I looked to look at some of those books, but I couldn't understand them. I was about 20, 25 years old. Then he called me one day to his office. He said, Son, do you see this side of the room, of the wall in this room? Yes. You don't have to read them. I read them for you. There's nothing you can get from them. But if you want to pursue the teaching, read this side of the wall. And then a funny thing happened. I failed Buddhism in school, and he has written 4 books on Buddhism. I passed all the other subjects, some credits, some decision. I was so scared when I went home. I couldn't believe how scared I was because his son fails Buddhism. When I went home, he looked at my report and he smiled. I was wondering why he's smiling. Then he said, Ah, very good. You failed Buddhism. So I said, Why? Now you can start learning all over again. Now you don't claim to know that you know the Buddha's teaching. Venerable Jnanavira used to say, if the scholars in the University of Sri Lanka, any university of the Buddhist scholars, if they have got degrees in Buddhism or scholarships in whatever they have they ever attained to Nibbana? No, nobody. Why? Because they were like parrots, learning something like a parrot, but no experience of the teaching. So you cannot take this teaching, read a book, and pass an exam. No way. So my father was very happy that I didn't do that. Actually, I couldn't understand a damn thing. So now he said, now start over again. So you see, it's the experience of the teaching which is necessary. I experience anxiety. I experience worry. I experience joy. I experience everything. What does this experience do to me? They are all transient. They are just passing by. They are impermanent. That makes you up. That wakes you up. And people who keep on dancing, I've seen them. They come to the last stages, if they are lucky, and the sorrow in their faces is incredible. The fear, the fear is incredible. When I was in hospital, I got ill when I was 72, and it was very bad sickness. If not for my eldest son, who's a doctor in USA, I thank him for that. I wouldn't have been even gone to the ICU. So when I went to the ICU, I died. But when I was dying, I don't know that I'm dying because you go unconscious all of a sudden. When you go unconscious all of a sudden, your memory is gone. I'm supposed to have said, "Don't worry, I'll come back." I'm supposed to have said, but that too I don't know. Fortunately for me, I came back because it not my time to die. Then I ended up in hospital for 114 days. You know, Jared, they used to do endoscopic at times. To do endoscopic, they anesthetize you or they give a some kind of anesthesia.
Sedative. Yeah.
I, yeah, I used to hope that I won't get up. I didn't have fear. Now I'm going through real suffering. I suffered so much. I know what meaning of suffering. But until 72, from 35 to 72, I prepared myself for this. Because I prepared myself meditating, 100% occupied with the teaching, I had no fear. That's the time you can thank the Buddha 3 trillion times. That's the time. So you have to understand it is going to happen to you, me, or everybody. It's the same. The lucky ones have a shock early in the life, but I had subtle shocks in life. Like when I was doing flying training, I nearly died. Then with Thompson, I nearly died. Then with Marshall, I nearly died. So I had these shocks, early shocks, made me go further. And there was one teaching, one sermon in the Buddha's teaching. I read this at 2 o'clock in the morning. He says, he takes sand into the fingertip of his thumb and he asks the monks, which is greater, this sand in the fingertip or the sand on this earth? He said, monks, these are the only ones, forget the Deva worlds, who come back to the earth. All the others go down. I tell you, Charit, my hairs came up at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I started to think, what happens now if I die? And I thought, I have to be inside this thumb on top of this finger. Otherwise, I'm going to go down. Where do you go down? Preta world, animal world, or the hell. And if you join the Preta world or the animal world, the time you come up is thousands of years because you can't do any more merit. Animals can't do merit. Pretas can't do merit. Hell beings can't do merit. So you are down. My desire, my resolution, resolve, adhisthana towards Nibbana, 100 times got greater. 100 times got greater. Not just one time, 100 times.
Interesting what you're saying, Sule. You are saying that if you're born a human, that based on the level of consciousness or the lifestyle that you have adopted or you have lived, once you pass away to another realm, I think that's what you're talking about, and that
Yeah.
you could be born as any other, like form, like an animal form, or that is that possible? Being born human, is
Yeah,
that what it is possible?
of course. Of course,
How does, I mean, is it now when you mentioned the fact that there are like, okay, there are preta worlds, and that like probably the Christians would mention to it, refer to it as you are in purgatory,
goals.
the ghost, the purgatory, whatever, just is it geographically, is it exist, does it exist, or it's a level of consciousness that you go up and down, how does that work?
It exists as a word. That's what the Buddha says.
Yeah.
It exists as a word. Well, I tell you, I have seen. So nobody needs to tell me whether it exists or it does not exist because I have seen.
What do you mean you have seen? I mean, you have experienced, or you have literally
Yes,
seen it? Okay.
yes,
Yeah.
yes,
How? Okay.
experienced it.
Please
And
explain. Yeah.
sometimes, most of the time in meditation,
Right.
sometimes they come and they appear. And even my mother came
Mm-hmm.
at 3 o'clock in the morning. So I have seen. And if you're talking about the heavenly worlds, I have seen one of them. They came to see me. So these are not necessary to see.
Right.
It's good to know that they exist. Of course, if you go into a high jhana, you can see them. And people who have gone high concentration level, they can see them. But it's still not necessary. The fact is, the Buddha's teaching exists now. It's here and now, to be experienced here and now. So follow his advice, and then you will see everything you need to see.
Okay. Interesting. Now, what you're now say that we spoke about this level of consciousness and the awakening. Now, can a normal person who lives a normal life, so like, okay, you probably your lifestyle is different and you have attained a certain stage in your life, but can a normal person, I mean, day to day layman, just who's struggling to live in this world, whilst having a normal life, can they adopt a spiritual path and follow this and make your path towards that spiritual journey? Is that possible?
I'll ask you a question. Buddha's time, King Bimbisara
Mm-hmm.
became a Sovan.
Whilst he was a
Now
king.
ask yourself, while he was a king, so
Yeah.
who are we? Billions of laymen attain the path.
Whilst you live a
So
normal life, is that what you're saying, Sunil?
while they live a normal life,
Okay. All right.
a family life, Chitta the householder had 4 wives. Became the Anagami.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? They had in them the burning desire. They felt the sorrow themselves. They felt the anxiety. They wanted a way out of this. It is so crazy. Sometimes when a person's birthday comes, I just sidetrack this. When a person's birthday comes, what do you say? Happy birthday. Correct?
Yep.
If it's my birthday today, you will wish me happy birthday. But the
Yep.
Buddha said the birth is suffering. So you are wishing me happy suffering day. Is that a meaning? Now Buddha categorically says the birth is suffering. But then you can ask me the question, why do we celebrate the birth of the Buddha? Because the Buddha came to end birth, the cycle of birth. He came to end the very cycle of birth. So that is a great birthday. But what do we say? From now on, I don't say happy birthday. I say, may you attain to Nibbana. May you finish suffering in this life. I don't say happy birthday anymore.
So then you ask the question, if you're saying that being born is a suffering, why do people, humans, being born into this realm, what's the purpose of being born? And the idea is to stop the existence of the cycle of the birth cycle.
Yeah.
One tends to ask, why are you here then? What's the purpose being here, Sunle?
You see, I told you the very purpose of the existence, the justification of existence. The Buddha says the justification of existence is to attain Nibbana. Why you have come here is with all the good merit in the past. You have acquired in the past. We all acquire bad and the good. All the merit of the past surface and you have a good birth. Now, the justification of this birth is to end with Nibbana. The justification of the birth is to attain to Nibbana. I didn't say that, the Buddha said that.
Yeah, so I mean, just for other people, I know I can see lots of, it's a big thank you to everybody who's, listening and watching. And there are many people who are listening to us other than the Buddhist Sunilai. So we need to clarify. So I guess what you're saying, Nibbana, is you're talking about enlightenment. If Please correct me if I'm wrong.
Yes,
So
yes,
so what you're saying is being born into this realm, as be born as a human, is a journey. It's like preparing your consciousness or whatever, soul or whatever. It's a process of man or a woman being prepared for the ultimate journey. Is that that you are here? It's like, it's like you are playing under 12, under 15, under 17 cricket, and under 19 being prepared to play at the national level. It's a progression. Is that what you're trying to imply? Is that what you're saying?
that should be the goal, one's goal. We have many goals. With all the material goals we have attained, what have we got? Have we got a peace of mind? Have we stopped the anxiety? Have we stopped the worrying? Have you?
No, it doesn't. No.
Have you? So, so what is our goal next? What should be our next goal then? Those kings, even the king Bimbisara, as a king attained this. So who are we? We are just family people. We are just family people. And this, what the Buddha says, what we in Sri Lanka have done is we take it as a religion. This is not a religion. This is the Buddha's teaching. It's a teaching which goes in the grain of every human being, irrespective of the nation, the culture, whatever. That's why we have in Sri Lanka many more foreign monks. They're born to a different culture. But we have the same anxiety, we have the same worry, same suffering. They are here to get out of that very nature.
All right.
So
So
whatever we do,
yeah, go on. So I think that answers your the question raised by Seven Heaven. Is Buddhism a religion or is it a universal energy? I don't know. The little I know, I believe that Buddhism is a philosophy that can be followed by anyone, regardless what set of beliefs a person has, without restricting the set of beliefs. I don't know whether it's possible, Sunilai. Could you
it
follow
is.
the philosophy
It
of
is.
Buddha? Is that possible?
You see, it is possible. When you start practicing what the Buddha says, when you begin to see more and more, religion has no place. This teaching exists, whether the Buddha is not there or if he's there. The truth exists, and all what he's saying, this is the truth of suffering. This is the truth of arising of suffering. This is the truth cessation of suffering. This is the truth what leads to the cessation of suffering, the path leading to the cessation. So those are the four truths. They exist, whether the Buddha is not there or not. The Buddha is a is a unique being born to find it himself. Secondly, to spread it around the world with sheer compassion, sheer love, sheer kindness, with all that he gives it to the world. He's a unique human being. That's why they appear so rarely in the world. And he says, the Dhamma exists, the truth exists. So people make out a religion. People make out a religion. And that's all wrong. Otherwise, how could Gnanadeepa, who's a Belgian monk, he came to Sri Lanka? How come Jnanavira is an English monk? How come so Slovenian monks, French monks? How can they come? They are not they are not based on, they are looking for the answer. They are looking what is the truth of my existence. They are looking for this answer. And for those who are looking for that answer, they will strive to get this answer. They will work hard to get this answer. And they will never be satisfied until they get the answer.
So,
And this,
yeah, go on, Sule. Yeah.
go on, go
Now,
on.
just when you are talking about the truth, so this is like what I'm trying to say is if there is truth in the world, there can't be many truths, right? Truth is just one
No,
thing.
just one thing.
It has to be one truth. That there at the moment there
Correct,
are so many teachings in the world. So how will
correct.
one know following a particular path, regardless it's
Yeah,
Buddhism or Christianity or any other that Hindu that's a philosophy or
yeah,
Hindu religion, or
yeah.
how would one know you are pursuing the correct path? Just where does that clarification or the clarity comes in? How do you know?
Very good question. Very good question. You see, if uh, another another human being talks to you about the path which leads to the end of suffering, that individual who's talking about it has to match with the Buddha's teaching. Buddha continuously says, monks, I only teach one thing, to end this suffering. So when somebody wants that path, do you see suffering yourself? Take any person in any religion, any sect of philosophers. Do they ask themselves, do you suffer? It does not mean physical suffering only. Anxiety is suffering. Worry is suffering. Seeing the others gone is suffering. Not being kind is suffering. All these things which affects the element of suffering. Have they showed you the way out of this suffering? If they have shown, they will be exactly like the Buddha's teaching.
Understood?
So there's, how do you get there? How do you get there? So you have a goal. I want to end suffering. What is this truth? What is this truth? So you go in search of this truth, and the Buddha has showed the way to do it. And once you go on, you begin to realize there is truth what he says. You experience it. And the Buddha says, you have no right to worship me if you do not experience me. So now he goes on the path. He experiences. Now he trusts the Buddha. He goes on until he sees the end of suffering. So one universal fact is suffering. Just one universal fact. Human beings suffer one way or the other. Worry and all these things. they suffer. If somebody says, I don't suffer, I think he's not telling the truth. Take the person who says, I don't suffer, point a gun at him and see what happens to him. You think he's not suffering now? Tell him to jump into the fire and see what he's doing now. They are one universal truth, the truth of suffering. Nobody can get out of that. The only people who get out of that is the people who follow this path. When they know that they have done it, they feel so sorry for the others. Exactly what the Buddha felt.
Excellent. In a nutshell, Sunil Iyer, right? From the time we started, that we have spoken for almost 35 minutes. In a nutshell, so what you're implying is that being born leads to suffering, and so it's a progression, and it's a matter of preparing someone, finding the right path to find enlightenment to overcome the suffering. So is that the purpose of
Absolutely.
life? So is that what it is in a very in a shortened way?
Okay. Okay, say that is not the purpose of life. Say that is not the purpose of. Then what is the purpose of life? End up in misery, end up in suffering. That's it. So there are only two ways. Either suffer or don't suffer. Which one do you want?
So, but
Which one do
I
you want?
yeah, I guess you cannot end the cycle just overnight. Just that's
No,
a
no, no. There has to be, at the time of the Buddha, there were people with one sentence who attained to Nibbana. Two sentences, Sariputta attained to Nibbana in two sentences. Moggallana attained to Nibbana in four sentences. Bahia in one sermon. Those people are no more. Those people are no more. Now you will need a good amount of sermon, good amount of meditation, but one can start and one will get there. If one starts, genuinely starts, one will get there.
what path do
You
you take
need
in life? What path? There are, when it
you
comes to Buddhism. Sorry to ask this question. In Sri Lanka, and it's globally accepted fact, I would say, the like Pope in Christianity, and he's a leader of he's the pillar of Christianity when it comes to Buddhism. I believe that Dalai Lama, noble Dalai Lama, but he's not even accepted in Sri Lanka. That we don't follow Dalai Lama's path, so we have a different teaching. So there again, the Buddhism is broken into two segments. So which path is the correct path? Or unless you tell me that it doesn't matter, you can take either path. Where
no no.
what's the
Let
path
me
that
let
one
me
should?
remind you.
Yeah,
Let me remind you. When the Buddha passed, the Buddha's teaching split into 17 different sects.
right.
Soon after when the Buddha passed away. Now we have three. So we have done better. But whatever path you take, my advice to you is go to the sutras, find somebody who can, who has attained to Nibbana, look for a person. If you are genuinely interested in cessation of suffering, the person will appear to you. I promise you, you will meet the person. But there has to be a urgent desire in you, a resolve stronger than any other resolve. When there is a resolve, there is an effort. When there is an effort, the mind puts that effort towards that goal. Then you begin to investigate. They are called the four ittipadas, four bases of power. When these powers work in, you are not going to stop. These powers are even in the mundane world, it is valid. Same powers, but where in this way you work towards the Nibbana. So the power of Irdipada, the four bases of power, when you have that, nobody can stop you. Nobody, nobody.
Understood. So
And what I can,
okay, go on. Yeah.
my advice to you is you don't need to look around. When the Buddha passed away, the monks asked him, "Who is the leader now?" What do you think his answer was? Sariputta was gone. He's passed away. Mahamoggala, two chief disciples passed away. There was a great disciple, Mahakasana. There was Venerable Anand, Anuruddha. All of them were there. When they asked, "Who is the leader?" what was the Buddha's answer? He says, "The teaching is the leader. Dhamma is the leader, the teaching." So now, does this teaching exist now or not? It does, still does. In the Sutta Pitaka, the entire teaching is available. So now go through the Sutta Pitaka with the four powers of bases of power. With that resolve, make the effort, apply the mind, and investigate. With these four, look into the sutras, and if you can, find a teacher who has attained to Nibbana. You done the spade work. Then go through this teacher like a leech hanging onto your leg. Go with him like a leech. Don't leave that teacher. If ever you find a teacher, don't leave him. Because you cannot teach, you cannot get taught without the teacher. If for me to play a cricket, I need a coach. So I hang on to the coach. I trust the coach. It's like that.
Yep.
So hang on to the teacher. Don't leave him. And when the Venerable Ananda asked the Buddha, half this teaching is the association of the wise. Association of the wise means the one who knows, realizes the Buddha's teaching is called an Aryan disciple. The one who hasn't understood the Buddha's teaching is called a Putujana, a commoner. He does not understand. Now, when you talk about the Buddha, you say Itipiso Bhagava. When you talk about the Dhamma, you say Swakato. When you talk about the Sangha, you talk Ashta Arya Puggalo. That means eight noble disciples. They are the carriers of the teaching. They carry the teaching. The other Sangha, other laymen do not carry the teaching. They are commoners. So the commoner cannot teach a commoner to attain to Aryanship. But once you have the resolve, once your burning desire has come, once you look into the sutras, I promise you the teacher will appear to you.
Brilliant. Excellent. So I just need to take a couple of questions. It's good to have Mr. Errol Bird. It's a question to you, Sunilaya. So, do you believe in karma? Karma, yeah. And do merits count in karma? Yep. Do you believe in karma? I don't know whether you believe, to make things easier. I think it's a matter of going to meditation.
I don't I don't need to believe. I
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So if I say if he asks the question whether I believe, I do believe
Yeah.
because I have been a victim of karma many times. And what was the other question?
Do you believe in merits?
Of course, of course. You see, I told you in the earlier one, if you and I do bad things, and if immediately we get the backlash result, will we ever do bad? No. If we do a good thing, if you get an immediate reaction, do we stop doing merit? No, we don't stop. If we do bad and the merit that demerit comes immediately, do we need a police force? No, because the police also can't do bad. He will get the bad. Do we need a government? No. Unfortunately, unfortunately, the karma doesn't act immediately. Some karmas do, some karmas don't. Many karmas don't. So it takes to ripen. When you plant a seed, the tree doesn't come out straight away. You need time for the tree to come. So exactly like that. But that's the unfortunate part. But if you were to ask how the karma works, the Buddha says that is only in the scope of the Buddha. Don't even think about how the karma works. He said you will go mad. But it is there. And whether merit is necessary or not, if not for merit, say if you do bad thing, is your mind at ease? Is it at peace? No. But if you do good things, is the mind at peace? Yes. Is the mind joyous? Yes. Now this credit accumulates to follow the path because the path is absolute purity. So you need purity to follow the purity.
So you mean to
That
say,
is why,
yeah, yeah, go on, Sunil. Yeah.
go ahead, go on.
So you mean to say karma is, it's like, we talk about instant karma, but what you are trying to say is karma is an accumulated thing. So it could be, so it's a very interesting point that we go into. So karma can be accumulated. So probably it is being carried forward from a past, in a previous life, and that, whatever you did in another life, that it can result in this
Yes,
life, and whatever you do, good or bad, can
yes,
be taken
yes,
forward to another life. So does that
yes,
mean the life does life exist after death, being or carried forward? What is your perception on that?
yes, of course, it does. Otherwise, I can't see my own mother. She can't come and ask for my food. She can't say, tell me, I'm hungry. So, when the question was asked by the Buddha says, do you see past life? He said, no. Do you see future life? He said, no. But if I tell you about the past life, does it matter to you? No. If I show the future life, does it matter to you? No. So what you don't see does not matter. But what matters is what you do now. And if you are doing good, what does it matter what comes after or before? Because you are doing good. So that is merit, and that merit is required. Even for meditation, that merit is required. When someone wants to go into higher stages of concentration, pure concentration, the Buddha says, Kamehi vivichehi. That means aloof from sense pleasures. And he says, aloof from unwholesome states. That means unwholesome states is doing bad. He does not say aloof from wholesome state. No, you need the wholesome state. Then the mind is at peace. Then the mind is not agitated. Mind is not worried. Then the mind is now able to concentrate. Then he can go into the upper jhanas.
Now this knowledge that you're talking about, now you spoke about when a pupil is ready. I think, again, I'm just trying to say that what you said in detail, the teacher appears and a person is ready, whatever the path that it happens. But isn't Buddha
No,
self?
not whatever the path which leads to suffering.
Okay, but is it a teacher, the teaching of someone? Is it how essential it is? Isn't Buddha self-taught to a certain extent? That is the wisdom that
He
was.
is. That is why he is the Buddha. That is why he calls himself the Buddha. But the others are followers of the Buddha.
So you mean to say that a normal, as you said, a commoner or a layman will never be a Buddha, but you can attain enlightenment. Is that what you're saying?
Of course, there are people who plant the seeds of being a Buddha. That seed can only be known by another Buddha, but they are as rare as the Buddha is. But all other people can attain to enlightenment, and that's why the Buddha comes to get the people out of this mess.
Understood. Okay. So where does now we spoke about that the how does the meditation come into equation in all that? How important? How does that? How meditation helps you to overcome the suffering or to attain enlightenment? How does that work? If there are so many people. Good example, it's me. I try to meditate. It's my conscious mind and the unconscious mind. It's very difficult for me to bring it to one place. It just sometimes it's impossible. But what are the best ways of meditating, and if you could just tell people that how beneficial it is, and that into day-to-day life as a layman, how it can work.
Oh yeah, first of all, as a layman, right? We're talking as a layman.
Yeah.
We need to follow the five precepts. You know the five precepts, okay?
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to follow the five precepts because if you break these precepts, your mind is agitated. And with an agitated mind, you cannot concentrate. Can you? You can't.
Yep.
Now, the mind can be agitated. You may be keeping the precepts. You say you keep the five precepts very duly. But the mind can be agitated in various ways. How? If you are indulging in your senses all the time, the mind will always go towards the senses. But if you are away from the senses, the mind is free to be concentrated. So agitation is stopped by following the five precepts, by aloof from the senses, going through the senses. If I go for a party in the evening and talk nonsense, next morning my meditation is gone. Because why? Because my mind is now going back to what I liked that evening. And what did I like? The music, the drinks, the food, the people, whatever. So the mind moves. So if you keep observing the mind, which is one of the meditations Buddha tells you, you begin to realize how this mind is working. Now you remove all these things. Now the mind is free to concentrate. And if anybody wants to go into the jhanas, I can teach it. That means to higher levels of concentration. But there must be resolve. The four bases of power must be in him towards Nibbana. Otherwise, it's just a waste of time. Sometimes, I sometimes think when I used to give a meditation lecture, why do I waste my time? Because I know these people will never meditate. Then Venerable Aryadhamma, who passed away, said, never stop that. Because there are people whom you don't see will listen also. So also the people whom you think that they are not doing, you may have planted a seed in them for the future. That's the very reason I agreed. So justify your existence. Justify your existence. Number one, get the burning desire into you. What is going to do with your senses when you get old? It cannot do anything to you. It's rotting. Every minute is rotting. If I crudely say it's rotting. However much I can put gold into myself, nothing is going to keep me alive. But meditation does some other thing. It removes the toxics from your body. So all the bad things go off. So it keeps you longer. That's why meditators live long. That's the reason. Now science is proving everything. What the meditation is doing. Buddha's times there was no science to prove. They knew it. If two people got together at that time, they will talk about which jhana are you in, or what is the spiritual level you are, or he is the spiritual leader you are following. But now if two people get together, oh, what's the mobile you have? What's the TV you have? What's the car you have? What's the drink you had last night? How's the food in that restaurant? I am so tired. You'll never believe I'm so tired of listening to this thing. Now, every time when my mind goes away, strays away, I watch my breath. My mind is at peace. I just watch the breath. Because, Charit, how old are you?
I just turned 61 2 days back.
How many years more are you going to indulge in your senses? Just imagine now, you're going to knock off tomorrow.
Yep.
What have you done? Zero, zero, zero. You're indulgent in your senses. And the Buddha says your life is hanging on a thin thread, thin thread. Just snaps, life is gone. So now ask yourself, what have I gained by indulging in the senses? So if you want to meditate, guard the five precepts, then be aloof from the senses. Why do you need concentration? Very simple. If both of us are we are concentrated on each other, talking this subject. If something, then when we are concentrated, we talk better, we do things better. But we are not concentrated, we don't do. So when we are concentrated, you're making the mind sharper. When the mind gets sharper, you see things beyond the normal. That's the reason. And that's the point you have to get. That's the point you have to get. Make that mind sharper. When the mind is sharper, you see things. You see, people say everything is impermanent. I can take a 10-year-old boy and I can convince him everything is impermanent. And the Buddha says everything is impermanent. So you think this person at 10 years old understood the Buddha's teaching? No. You think I can take you now, I can tell you, I can prove to you everything is impermanent. And you will say, yes, I agree with you. You can't disagree because everything is permanent, impermanent. But do you realize that you still haven't understood the Buddha's teaching? What this impermanence is talking about. Now, to get that knowledge, you need a sharp mind. What is he talking about? It's like when I was starting on the Dhamma, I read the entire Sutra Pitaka, 85,000 sermons. I had in three languages, Pali, Sinhalese, and English. I read them all. I read many books on great Thai monks, great Burmese monks, great Sri Lankan monks. I read all of them. I meditated, but not to a great level. I went to my teacher, Venerable Jnana Ramahamguru. I asked him, Venerable Sir, I am getting nowhere. Teach me again from the beginning. I kept the books away, started to meditate, purely on meditation. Things worked. When the mind is sharp, You reflect what the Buddha has said. He teaches you precisely. Dhamma is beautiful in the beginning, in the middle, beautiful in the end. He teaches precisely what to do in the four Satipatthana Sutra. You practice the Satipatthana Sutra and you practice Samatha, which is a great tool for do that meditation. You are on track.
Understood. What you're saying is, apart from many benefits by meditating, we spoke about getting rid of toxins and sharpening your mind. I think what you're trying to say is that if you start meditating, that you start seeing the unseen. What is, I think, I think.
That's right. That's right. So if you're not concentrated, you're dancing the same dance. Charan, just imagine somebody knocks you up tomorrow and finishes your life. What happens to you? What has happened? What have you done? Ask yourself. Burn that desire. What should I do with the rest of my life? So I started early. Some start late. Doesn't matter. The Buddha says some start in a very early age. Some start in the middle. Some start in the end. Whichever way you start. But the start is the most important. Understanding that these senses leads you nowhere other than corrosion of the senses, getting corroded like a metal iron, getting corroded little by little until it's fully corroded and it breaks off. That is what the senses do to you.
So it's basically what you're saying is there's five senses that the human is created with. There are obstacles that are created along the way that pulls you back and it stops you from achieving your goals or carrying on with the journey that's ahead of you. It just it's like the blinkers on. Just you can't see.
Ah,
Just you take the blinkers
You,
off.
you, your world is five senses. You make use of the five senses. Where do the five senses lead you to? Are they permanent or are they impermanent? They are all impermanent. So it's seen. But why is that people don't do that? Why is the reason? Or in Sinhalese they say, pinane, no merit. But actually, that's a wrong way to put it. There is merit already being born a human. That merit is enough. But what is not necessary, do you have a burning desire to get out of suffering or do you want to remain in suffering? Now, if you think, I don't want to know about suffering, that's another matter. Then you will be suffering. If you want to get out of suffering, then you will follow the path. Look at the person who has told who the way towards the ending of this path. That's another matter. Or if you want to suffer, suffer. So three options we have. Whichever way the senses do no good to us.
True. What?
That's the reason.
Yeah. So like you spoke about like that experiencing almost a near death experience which you had in the past, and then also you mentioned that when you are in this state of meditative state, that in a higher at a very higher stage, that you could see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so does that mean that I know that you meditate, you have told me that for hours and hours, which I find to stay in one place for more than 20 minutes. I mean, on a day that I have meditated for 20 minutes, I feel great. That's a probably that's a that's I know what it is. I go to a zone sometimes, which it's unexplainable. But I haven't had this experience of interacting with any other being or just shifting on to another realm. No, I haven't had that. If you are talking about, you talk of preta, that's the, I think, the evil side of it or the dark side of it. Then you spoke about the good side of it, right? Does is there anything now in the state of this meditative state? Is there anything called that some people believe in creation? They speak of a creator. Is there anything like that, this world whole thing, that someone has built it, that there's a like a program in place that everybody is going through according to someone's will? Is there any truth or uh, any depth into that statement? What are your thoughts, that you go deep into meditation? And I would ask you, the concept of God, does it really exist in this life?
I tell you, I don't like to talk about other people's faith, frankly, because they are born to that faith, they follow that faith. So I don't like to criticize that faith. That's how they are born. But do they suffer? Yes, I know they suffer. That they don't need to tell me that. I see them, I know that. But I will give you a classic example. The, the head of the church in Sri Lanka uh, came to my brother and asked him questions about God. He was very reluctant to answer. Then he pressed him. No, no, please answer. I'm open. The question was, do you believe in God? So my brother very tactfully gave him the answer in the negative. You know what he replied? I don't believe either. Does it answer all your questions now?
Well, it does to a certain extent. I mean, it's perhaps another full episode that we're going to talk about the concept of a god or the creation. So, where does this whole human, where does it come from? This is the whole world that you talk about, different realms, and being human, and like our aim is to strive towards enlightenment. That's the final goal. And what you are saying is you stop that cycle, being born again over and over repeatedly. Stop the process of being reincarnated. I think that's the word. And then no sooner you stop that, your suffering ends. Is that what you're saying? So that's our
Yes.
so basically, so all what we discussed so far, why we come into this realm, to prepare yourself for your next journey. Please, tell me if I'm wrong. And do you fear death, Sunil? Do we have to fear death? Does meditation prepare you what death is? Death is a natural process. You being prepared for your next journey? Is that how does it? So it's like a conscious, continuous wheel that goes on and on, an endless wheel that carries on until the day you realize it is a useless rotation of things and you need to stop that. I think is that what it is?
You see, your question is wrong.
Yeah,
I'll tell you what's the reason. This word reincarnation, they call it rebirth, correct?
yeah,
So samsara is a cycle of rebirth, okay?
yeah.
But the word samsara is not rebirth. The word samsara, sam is an addition to the sara, samsara. In Pali, this word sam is just an addition.
Okay,
Sara means continuation.
right.
Now, when you say rebirth, that means I I, Charit, will be born again.
Yeah.
But the Buddha says there is no such thing called I, myself, or I am. So if there is no such thing by the Buddha's description, then who is born? That's why word samsara means just continuation. What continues? As long as there's craving, something continues. But not Charit, who is born again. Because Charit does not exist. Person, person doesn't exist, but the individual exists. So your question is wrong. You're already referring to a person, some person being born. That's why the Buddha, when Vachagota, I think, asked the question, uh, who is reborn? Who is reborn? He didn't answer the question. Because if he answered in either way, he would be confused. Because he cannot get out of his mind the notion of I. I exist. In your case too. I exist. I will be reborn. I will die. But Buddha says there's nothing to be found that which you call I to be I. So samsara means just continuation. As long as there's a craving for existence, that craving brings another existence. But it's not Charit which is born.
Yeah.
There's no person called Charit to be born.
So
So the
I
word read,
yeah, let me
yeah,
rephrase the question. So I
yeah,
understand. So I cease to exist with your death. You become entity. That's no one remembers you. That there's a very interesting thing that I read the other day. The moment you are dead, they don't even call you as Charit or Sunila. Yeah. So I will ask you, when is the body coming home? You become a body. body body goes
yes,
back.
yes,
Body goes back to earth.
absolutely,
So then let me
absolutely.
rephrase. If I continue to don't exist, it ceases. I is finished. What goes on to the next level? Is it the consciousness? What does it go on?
No, no, no. You said when I is finished, there has to be a I to finish.
Okay. So I don't exist.
There's, however much I say, I, you does not exist. It doesn't mean anything to you because you haven't seen the perception of not self. It's called the anatta sanya. You haven't seen that perception. So, however much I tell it to you, you will not understand that charit does not exist.
Yeah.
The Buddha says there's nothing to be found which can be called belonging to self. So when you have this notion, you can't get out of this notion. That's why the teaching the Buddha says is very subtle, gambiro, very deep, can be understood by the wise. Why is he got to be wise? Because he got to have that burning desire. What is this suffering which causes? That is the wise person. Now you understand what I'm talking.
Yep.
Those are the reasons.
Now, when you mentioned that when you were in that deep state, you didn't know that, you were pronounced dead,
Yeah.
and you literally you see your body, your human body lies in lying on a bed or whatever, and you are literally a out of body experience, which I suppose you can attain in deep state of meditation. I have heard people talking about the out of body experience. Then you mentioned the fact that your late mother appeared to you. Now, where does your mother come from? So in which realm does she exist?
Whatever realm she exists, she can appear to you, but she cannot appear to you if you are in an animal realm or if you are in the hell
Mhm.
or all other realms, most of the realms, she can appear. She can appear.
How
I know
how
a
d-
German lady
yeah,
who told me her father came to him and said the same thing. I'm hungry. So if there is a craving, craving for existence, craving for sense pleasure, craving, whatever craving, this craving will move on until the craving ceases. When the craving ceases, everything ceases. So the Buddha's teaching shows you the way to end this craving. Suffering, end this suffering means ending the craving. Craving
interesting.
for existence, craving for non-existence, craving for karma, everything.
So can the spiritual beings guide you in whatever form, just to carry you forward? Can you sort of in your meditative state have a develop a dialogue with these higher beings that to guide you? Is that possible?
Yeah, it is possible. I know monks who have done it. Some of them have been guided because they are able to guide you.
So do you in your state now say for an example, Sunil, like I know that like you use meditate for long periods of time. So how
Not
does
enough.
not enough? So is it possible for a person to continuously meditate for hours and hours, and so what happens in that state? Your body just like you distance yourself from the humanly things, or like what happens to your body, your whole chemical reaction of your brain, etc.
Charit, Charit, I tell you, if I tell you I have a lovely dish which you have never tasted, you can only imagine, right?
Yeah.
But I have tasted it. If this mind focuses on this breath away from the senses and it goes into the jhanas, first jhana, second jhana, third jhana, if it goes higher and higher, you will not stay for 1 hour. You might even stay for days because the pleasure by those jhanas are far, far superior to the pleasure derived from the senses. Now, you cannot tell me because I have also experienced the senses. I still do experience the senses. But I have experience beyond the senses. That's called the Niramisa Sukha, pleasure beyond the senses. That's how those yogis, without even following the Buddha's teaching, they go into this pleasure, and that's how they live. For them, this pleasure of the senses is very coarse, very, it's like it's very hard, it's very coarse. But the pleasure of this is very fine, very fine. And if you go beyond the fourth jhana, if you go to the fourth jhana, your breathing stops. And I think if you go above the fourth jhana, also the breathing stops. The body is kept with the heat of the body. Body doesn't need the breath. When you start meditation on the breath, okay, you are applying your mind here and maintain that mind there. Then you will see the world around you begin slowly drift away. and the mind is completely here. Then the five hindrances are gone down: lust, hate, agitation and worry, sloth and torpor, doubt. When the five hindrances go down, like the mud in the water goes down, the water is clear. So when the mind is concentrated here, the hindrances go down. The world is no more. Now, this physical image of the breath will transform into a mental image. This mental image will come as a light mind being lighted. When the mind is lighted, that means you are no more with the physical world. Now the body experiences the present mind, preeti of the mind, joy of the mind, and the pleasure of the body. That experience is indescribable. Now you see, when the mind is concentrated on the breath, the rest of the world with the senses leave off. Now the mind is only here. Then this breath, the physical image, transforms into a mental image. And the Buddha says the mind illumines itself. Sorry, sometimes it's like a bulb inside my head. It's lighted, completely lighted. I opened my eyes to see the sunlight is flashed. No, it's gloomy outside. But how is my mind illuminated? That's the brightness, sharpness of the mind. Now, this is only the initial stage. Now, can you imagine? This goes more and more and more. And when it goes to the stage of the fourth jhana, the breathing stops. In the hospital, I went into the eighth jhana, not sorry, seventh jhana. It's not the jhana, it's called the attainment. Seventh attainment. I did not meditate, but did want my senses. My senses are as good as dead. So mind automatically meditates. All of a sudden, I went into a thing called infinite consciousness, infinite nothingness. It's like a black hole inside. I enjoyed being there, but due to excessive enjoyment, it broke off. But I went on again. Now in the hospital, I am wired to the pulse meter. This pulse meter says my pulse is going down or going up. Correct?
Yep.
When it happened to the second time, this is how I know in that particular attainment, the breathing would have stopped. Now scientifically I know it did, because next thing I knew was five doctors, two nurses slammed into my room and asked me, "What is your name? Raise your left hand, raise your right hand." They gave me a heart check. They thought my heart stopped. So it had physical proof what the Buddha says, which I didn't expect to experience, but I experienced. Now, the chief doctor was a lady doctor called Dr. Pilly. She came to my room and I told her what happened. You know, she did this to me, the German doctor, because they couldn't understand what happened. How did my pulse go down and my heart is still fine? So can the bliss of those yogis don't want to come out for days. 1 hour is nothing. I stay for 2 hours. Nothing. You can stay the whole day. I'm not that far gone to stay the whole day. But I wish I can. Buddha went beyond that because Buddha found even that is impermanent.
You mean to say
That's
the euphoric state that you are, that too is impermanent. That what you're saying?
that's correct. Even that is impermanent.
Okay.
Buddha went into those states and he was not satisfied. He wanted a state where you never come back again. And that is the bliss of Nibbana.
Yeah, we're getting there. Can that sort of just it's another layman's question, Sunil. Like certain people who indulge in vices, can you get that stage by taking chemicals in a certain that the same kind of euphoric feeling? But I know that too is impermanent. And that also
No,
leads on to
no,
various
no,
other
no
complications.
way. No way, no way,
Not really.
no way, no way.
I have
Yeah,
heard
imagine it.
yeah, people talking about taking just certain drugs, etc. Which I don't want to mention names, but that
Yeah.
you reach a certain high that's it's like similar to meditation, but it is two different things. I believe it. These people are just
Can I
confused.
prove it? Can I prove it to you instantly?
Please,
The one who goes into the jhanas, stays for 4 5 hours, enjoys the bliss, and comes down.
right?
His mind doesn't still move to the senses for hours, sometimes days. Ask the monks, they will tell you. They don't move to mind is not interested anymore in the senses. But that still that joy is still hanging around them. Take a druggie. He takes the drugs, goes into a high,
Yeah,
comes out of it. Where does he go to?
he has withdrawals and
What does,
depression.
now do I answer the question?
Yeah. Just to the other question, just to ask, because I know there are several Christians who are listening to this. What we are talking about. We You spoke about the five precepts of the Buddhism. The In Christianity they talk about the Ten Commandments, right? Perhaps it's that's broken down into in detail into a few other areas. That anyone who follows that, like I'm just asking you that's like from a layman's point of view. But if you to embark on a path, it's meditation combined with teachings of another religious leader, could you attain the same path you're talking about? Can you go towards nibbana by following another path? Is that possible?
No, 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 no. Just impossible. Don't even think about it. You
Why do
know,
you
I
say
used
that?
to fly with fly with a lot of Muslim pilots,
Right.
and they used to love me. I don't know why. They just loved me. They even took me to Riyadh, and they wanted me to be a Muslim. I flew for Africa, and their co-pilot told me, "I'll give you the Quran, Captain. You are such a good person. We want you to be a Muslim." I always said, "Yeah, sure, why not?" But give me one answer. Just show me the way how I can get out of suffering and I'll become what you want. Nobody came back.
Isn't that
Nobody
related
came
to?
back.
Yeah, you see the Deepa, she was one of my sometime back during COVID time when I first started this podcast. Deepa was a regular guest of mine. She's in Malaysia at the moment. um just like suffering, isn't bliss too within ourselves, or is a different bliss that you're talking about, Sunlaya? What does she mean
This
by
bliss
bliss?
I'm talking about is just the jahanic bliss, power of concentration, bliss of concentration.
Yeah.
Nothing more. Nothing more.
So it's more beyond your
So,
body. Just you're talking about it. It's not a
no,
bliss
no,
that you.
beyond the senses.
Yeah.
Beyond the
Beyond
senses.
your senses. Okay.
Right. That's all I'm talking about here. because this is a fantastic tool for enlightenment, for Nibbana. Fantastic. Because the mind is sharp. When the mind is sharp, you can understand the intricacies of the Buddha's teaching. So it could be a very necessary. There are few human beings who will not have that level of concentration and still attain to Nibbana. But if you have this tool, it's like a sharp knife cutting anything on the way. So that is just the bliss of Nibbana. Because in the Buddha's time, his two teachers were ones who had the seventh stage of attainment and the eighth stage of attainment. He went to both of them taught them, and he learned them. He was not satisfied. Then he asked them, I'm not satisfied. They told him, that is up to you to find the answer. We have no more answers. And one of the teachers, when he left, one of the teachers, he touched the earth where the Buddha was. He was not the Buddha, where he was standing, and he touched the earth and he rubbed this on his head. And his students were all shocked. He says, that man one day will be the Buddha, but I won't see him. I have taught everything I can, but I won't see him. When the Buddha attained to Nibbana, the first two people he looked at was these two people. But they are in a place called the Brahma worlds. They live billions of years. But they cannot understand the teaching because they cannot tag on to a perception. That's the only reason.
Yeah.
But can you imagine? Yeah.
There's a Errol, is just asking. I think you need to, I mean, Errol is very keen to find out. Just is a question. If it is merit to be born a human, why is suffering the path destined? Why is suffering so rampant? Am I right in assuming you are your own worst enemy?
He's right. Very right. Absolutely right. If you are the only person who can get yourself out of suffering, and the merit you have acquired is for the purpose which should be used for the purpose of suffering. Otherwise, you wasted a beautiful human life. Beautiful human life. The Buddha says to be born in a country where the Buddha's teaching exists, to be born with the five senses in order, to be born having a roof under you, to be born with everything you want. It's so rare. You will not get another chance like this for many years to come if you do not use this. He said, you are so fortunate. Look at the multitude of people suffering in this world. Multitude of people suffering in this world.
So that leads to
Do we suffer?
yeah. Yes,
Yeah.
we do, but that leads to the question, Sunil. Yeah. So you spoke about we spoke about karma, and that you said that it's a accumulation of incidents that over a period of time that can happen instantly or otherwise. So that's over a period of time. So if you're going to be whatever that that once you are born, we said that there's no I, so that there's not a case of Charit Saranayaka being dead and being reborn as Charit Saranayaka. It's not going to happen. Neither Sunil Wettimuny. So if there's karma, good and the bad, cause and effect, that don't you predestined where you want to be born next in your next journey. Has your
If,
karma or merit got to do something if the life journey goes on?
in fact, this was a question asked by Brahmin by the Buddha, if I remember right. In that case, in that case, we cannot get out of our karma. If it's all predestined, we cannot get out of it. We are sunk in our image. We are sunk in our blueprint. It's because karma is reversible. And out of the 8 karmas, he says only one karma which is paid back. All the other 7 karmas are things which happen now. Karma vipaka is what you're talking about.
Mhm.
Because if it has a blueprint on our karma, we cannot get out of the karma. Then we are no escape from Nibbana. Escape towards Nibbana.
So how do you repay your karmas? That you got to pay. Like every action has a reaction. At what stage do
Yeah,
you?
yeah, it's already paying you. Every moment it's paying you. Your existence now, listening to the Dhamma, is paying you. My existence in this manner is paying the karma is paying me now. So it's continuously paying. Tomorrow I'm sick, it might be because due to weather. But that is not due to my past karma. That is the weather. Due to weather I foolishly went out, I got a cold. So you understand that?
Yeah, but then how do you said that you have to be lucky to be born in a nation, in a
Yeah,
country that
yeah,
is
because to make correct, to make use of that. The Buddha wants you to make use of that. Justify that. Justify that. Don't throw it away. It's like we Buddhists, we call ourselves Buddhists. We have the teaching in our hands, on our plate. And what do? We keep it on a pedestal and worship. That's all we do. You know, Venerable Jnanavira, who's a Buddhist, who's a British monk, you know what he said? He said the Sri Lankans are the greatest preservers of the Buddha's teaching, but they know next to nothing about the teaching.
that's a question I was going to ask you. If you say that as a nation we are so lucky to have this wisdom, as a nation, where are we heading? We perhaps are the worst placed nations.
Precisely,
Perhaps the what Buddha
precisely.
preached, maybe it's in the country that you live, that the people have better values. They are better people than the sort of people who live with this country. Where do we go wrong, Sunlai? With all this wisdom, the knowledge, what
You
has
see, but
happened to us?
don't forget one thing. We have the faith, we have the trust. We preserve it, but we preserve it for other people. We don't preserve it and use it. We don't make use of it.
So when you say other
We are the
people,
greatest.
when you say people live outside Sri Lanka, is that what you say?
Open, yes, open to the Dhamma from other nations. How many of our people are meditating, genuinely interested in Nibbana? Genuinely. 100% genuinely interested in Nibbana.
It's another question that I got, and I just want to ask you: what about the people who live in fear, thinking about their next birth and not utilizing the life that you have on this earth? Where would those people go? Will they ever find enlightenment? Adopting a path and straying away from this world, thinking about the next world. What happens to those people?
They are not making use of this life to gain the path. They are thinking of something which is in the future, nobody knows. It's like thinking of the past, it's gone. Future is not come. So what do we know about both sides? Nothing. But now, here and now, we know. That's why the Buddha's teaching Swakato Bhagavato Samdittiko Akaliko. does not involve time. It's here and now. So what is that person doing? He's wasting his time by thinking of the future without working himself with a great Dhamma on his plate. He has it on his plate. And that's what has happened to the Sri Lankan community. That's
It's
what
a,
has happened to the Sri Lankan community
as a nation. Yes, I understand that.
as a nation.
So what you're saying is, yes, perhaps we have the knowledge, perhaps certain people have the wisdom, but we are not taking the path. We are preserving it for the benefit of the whoever is willing to follow the path. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, more likely.
Well, it's
I see more foreigners making use of the path than the Sri Lankans making use of the path.
yeah, interesting concept. But that you that what you mentioned, that that once you are, that that there is no I, and then we spoke about what goes on to the um, sorry, that I think that Sunil perhaps he has a technical issue. Hopefully he'll join us again, and we'll give him a few minutes just to try and to restore his connection and try and get back online if it's possible. And until hoping that Sunil will join the live stream, let's quickly. I may have missed a lot of questions that people asked, and I didn't have time to go through all the questions and attend to Sunil as well. Oh, he's back. He's I'm glad he's back. Um, you're back, Sunil. Thank God for that.
Yeah,
This I couldn't. The question that I was going to ask you before, I just gonna quickly read the other questions. Now you says once you're dead, you're dead. It was not very clear to me what goes on actually, what you said. And then how does this whole karma, and if it's a different entity that's been born, where does the connection come in? How does the progression go? Where does the awakening comes from? If a different entity is that you have nothing to do with, like what you did in this life, what goes on? Where does the progression come in?
I did not say nothing to do in this life.
Okay.
All what goes on is
Yeah.
what you have done in this life and in the past life.
So what goes on? Is there consciousness? Is it the wisdom, the knowledge? What goes on?
It just moves on. The craving in it just moves on. And it takes another body. But it's not Charit who's moving on. If you say Charit, the notion I comes in.
Yeah.
I don't expect you to understand this, but that's what happens.
I got it. That my last question was going to be, and in fact, Ravin has raised it. Thank you, Ravin, for raising it. Can you please ask Sunil a few takeaway points for anyone who is keen to take the path? It's a good question. I was going to ask you, what's your advice to people who are willing to take the path? What are some takeaway points? Where would you start? The easiest way, and just to walk in that direction, see whether it works for you. What's your advice on that?
Practice the five precepts, first of all. It's necessary.
So that's the start.
That's a start.
That's like going into nets and facing. You're working on your skills, on your batting skills,
Correct.
bowling skills. Yeah.
Correct.
Okay. All right.
Correct. Be truthful, never lie, just follow the precepts. After that, look into the teaching. If you need help, I will give you. Look into the teaching. How do I start? How do I meditate? What meditation should I do? That can be done. Start reading on the sermons. So many things to do.
The most important thing is to take that first step, I guess. Before you start thinking of walking 100 miles,
Yeah,
take the first step, initial step, then you probably going in the right direction. And
correct.
Sulay, you said that when a student is ready, a teacher will appear. And just to ask you, your acquired wisdom, is it through teachings or through meditation? How have you acquired, just, I know that you said that you read so many books and, so many sutras and, so on and so forth. So where does the bulk of the knowledge comes? Can you acquire wisdom, knowledge by meditating?
Only, only by meditation, not by reading the books. Because you see, what is written in the Sermon Sutra today is absolutely correct. But when you read a book, the book cannot tell you you understood. But when you meet a right teacher, if you meet the right teacher,
Yeah.
who should be Aryan disciple, and if this teacher, if you tell the teacher, this is what I did, the teacher can guide you. There's always a guidance. No, 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 that's wrong. You do it this way, and you explain why it is wrong. Never take the teacher's advice, anybody's advice, one to one. Always investigate yourself. What he is saying, is it correct? Then, when the teacher says, practice and see whether it's correct. Then you begin to develop the trust in the teacher. One step at a time, it goes on. If you don't understand at any time, tell the teacher, I don't understand. Then he should be able to explain. That's how it goes. Without a teacher, this knowledge cannot be acquired.
Well said. Very, very quickly, Sulay, uh,
If
I can
if you
see.
acquire if
Yeah,
you acquire this teaching by yourself, then you become the Buddha,
there
which
you
is
go.
not possible.
Okay. Therefore, you need guidance. That's what you're saying. It's a very interesting question. I want to keep asking. That what are the consequences of eating animal flesh? Now, it's a very interesting thing. I know it's in a Buddha said, "Do not kill." Did he say, "Do not consume animal flesh"?
Never.
So, is it
He said,
okay
he
to?
said,
Is it
he
okay?
said to,
Yeah.
he said, if you see an animal being killed, if you see,
Right.
if you hear an animal being killed, or if that animal is killed for you, precisely for you, under those three conditions, do not eat flesh
If you see, if you hear, if the animal is killed for you, especially for you.
for you, especially
Okay.
for you.
All right.
And for the monks, if I remember right, I have read part of the Vinaya Pitaka. I may be wrong, I may be right. Uh, that they said if they find a dead animal on the way and there's nothing to eat, and this animal is being not anymore consumed by another animal, they can cook this meat and eat. So that means they can, it's just flesh now. The animal is dead already. So that under those conditions can be read. By the way, all what I have said, do not believe. But if you experience what I have said, then we are together.
Exactly. It's going to be my next question. But when you say an animal is not killed for you particularly, but then it raises the question every time you walk into the supermarket or the meat stall, animals are killed for human consumption. So
Yes,
if you don't eat meat, there's no need to kill the animals. So you are directly or indirectly involved for the killing of the animal. Am I right or wrong?
Yes, you're right. Good question. I have posed this question. Even my cousin posed this question to me. I have told the intention of that supermarket is to tell that I am killing this for the public.
And you're part of the public.
Correct? I am part of the public. His intention says I am part of the public, but I don't take myself as the public. I take myself as an individual.
So that's a counter argument. Yeah.
Yeah. So that whatever you see in a supermarket is is dead meat. Karma has already been created, finished.
Yeah. That that I can live with. Yes.
So now there is no additional karma by eating that meat.
So that's the explanation
So
I can live with. That's a good one. I can see Sula. There's another so many people, expressing their their views
read all
and
the questions.
the
Read all the questions.
impossible Sule. That some I can't even that they are not questions actually. That it's very interesting. I hope you can after this discussion that that you can go and see what they are saying. That they are giving their point of view for what we are saying. It's very very similar to what you are what like what you have spoken about all this while. But there is a very interesting it's not a question that by Errol. I thought that what Errol was saying. He says being a Christian, basically that's what I didn't think. Yeah, great takeaways. I'm a Catholic following the teachings of Lord Buddha. How can you help me cultivate this deeper? Thank you very much. I think Srila, very interesting story. Errol and I played. We played for a club in Holland. I consider him as a great mate and amazing guy. He still bowls his right arm leggies even at his that a very senior age. Good cricketer. He's on a definitely he's on a spiritual path, and if you can I mean, I know last time we spoke, you and I, you helped so many people, and I suppose it appears that Errol is a person whom you can help
Oh,
guide.
give him my WhatsApp number. He can contact me anytime and tell him if he's genuinely interested in Nibbana, I will put my entire effort.
Oh, thanks, Ulay. That's brilliant, Errol. I hope you can hear. You heard what Sunil Laya said. I will give Sunil Laya's contacts to you, and I don't think this is just as you rightly said. It's not like a you can't guide people in one short session and in a few words, unless that you said that the names you mentioned, that you're on a uh, higher league, that that one or two words can direct you to a different path or different you know oh, there you go. Yes, I am. My mom was a Buddhist, so no wonder where the inclination comes from, that is interest. Yes, don't worry, I will put you on to Sunilaya. You can pursue. My last question to you, Sunilaya: did Buddha, did he pass on all the wisdom he acquired to Ananda Thero, whom we consider as the caretaker? Did he
Buddha,
manage to do that?
1 billion%. A Buddha does not leave this earth. He will not leave this earth until he has given every ounce of the teaching to the people. That's one of the hallmarks of the Buddha. He will not leave.
So,
He will
so
give every atom of the teaching to the world.
did he have time, that to pass on all the acquired wisdom to?
Of course, of course.
He did.
He doesn't leave. They don't leave. The Buddhas don't leave. Without every atom of the teaching is passed. What is necessary, not what is unnecessary.
Right.
He picks up leaves in his hand and he says, "Monks, this is what I. You see the leaves in the jungle and the leaves in my hand. The leaves in the jungle is what I know, but what I have given you is the leaves in the hand.
All
And
right.
these
Okay.
leaves in the hand is more than enough for you to follow Nibbana.
Thanks for clarifying it. That's I was because I was listening to before this chat with you. I just listened to some people like Osho's and Sadgurus, and I mean they I think they're awakened people, special humans, and they had a different idea about what Buddha said. That he perhaps implied to a certain extent that he did not pass on the entire the all the acquired wisdom. My other question to you, okay, whatever Buddha passed on, has it been written in the Tripitakas and in every word to word? It's there. There is no question about the
Every
word.
word, no question about it.
Nothing's been diluted along the way.
Nothing to do with that. Translations can be misleading. Translations. But other than that, everything is written. If
Is
you
it
can read the
possible? Yeah. So,
if
like,
you can
is
read
it
the
now?
Pali,
Yeah. Okay. Go on.
if you can read the Pali, you have it all.
What I'm saying is now there are so many people who listen to our conversation today, but how they comprehend that what you spoke and how I comprehended it. And if I go and explain now, soon after this show, that I'll have to go and see some of my friends, and some would have listened to this in our conversation, how they comprehended and how I perceived it. Isn't it contrasting? Like unless that I write my own thing. Okay, this is what I said. So for an example, now Errol contacts you, Sunilaya, and that you will endorse and you will send him an email on WhatsApp, and you will guarantee what you say. But now, if I go and tell somebody else A, B, C, D, this is what Sunilaya said, will I be able to translate everything that you told me? I don't know whether humanly is it possible. Can the message get disrupted along the way? I do
Can,
not know. I'm just asking you.
can.
Eh,
Anything is possible. But
Yeah,
if you are talking about the teaching is there in the whole.
that's reassuring.
Okay,
That's what I wanted
so
to.
that's
That's what
where
I wanted to.
the reassurance come from the practice by through the practice.
Yeah,
And if you can meet an arahat who is fully enlightened, he
right.
will also tell the teaching is in total there.
By the way, Sunilaya, one of your crew members, past crew members, sending you compliments of the season. Tiran Ludovic, I think he used to fly with you, and he's still great mates, and he just gives his regards to you. And good to have him on the show always. The big supporter of the show. And Ravin, what is he saying? Is he blasting me? You are asking. Oh, thank you, mate. Well, I'm given a title, Arahat Anand already. Thank you very much. I think I'm good to know that I'm on the right path. Spending time with you. Sunilaya, before we have spoken almost 2 hours, which is very very long. Your parting words, parting advice to people who wants to embark on the journey that you have discovered, and you insist the fact that it has transformed your life, and how amazing that the world that you see, if you, as I said, embark on this path. What's your advice to people? How do normal people get on this path?
Charit, my advice, I take the Buddha's advice and I'll pass the Buddha's advice to others. Buddha's last words was do not delay the practice of mindfulness or you will regret. That's it. Those
It's
were the parting words of the Buddha.
so
So I
is
will
that
pass the same
yeah,
parting words.
is that what
Do
Ananda
not,
has taken? Appamadu Amatapadang,
yes,
is that, yeah?
that's right. Appamado hamatapadan, pamado machunopadan. Those who are mindful will lead to deathless. Deathless is Nibbana. Those who are unmindful are like the dead already.
Could you explain mindfulness in a few words? What is it when you say mindfulness?
Mind, mindfulness is application of the mind to one single object and maintain the awareness of that object. Maintain mindfulness, aware that you are mindful of one particular object. You take a feeling, you take a feeling, apply the mind towards that feeling, maintain awareness. So that is mindfulness and awareness until the feeling disappears.
So does it the mindfulness, can that be like whatever trait that you are, when you talk of mindfulness, that you're talking about, the embarking on a spiritual journey? Is that the mindfulness
Yes,
you're
yes.
talking about?
You see, a surgeon who operates have to be mindful also. But that's not the mindful the Buddha talks about. The Buddha talks about the mindfulness and awareness. That you take an example as a feeling. When the feeling arises, you are mindful. Maintain the awareness of that feeling. Feeling will stay there for some time, and the feeling ceases. Maintain that mindfulness until the feeling ceases. So when the mindfulness and the awareness of that being mindful is locked into that feeling, the world is not there for you. You are fully focused on that particular feeling. So that's what the Buddha says. Sati sampajanda, appamado amata padan.
So what if you become another layman's question, so like, just what if you become a legend in whatever field that you're in, become a great leader, great visionary, uh, great entrepreneur, and like, does that lead to enlightenment? Oh no, it doesn't. It just, it's a materialistic world you're talking about, different
Whom are you
to
talking about?
any, let's say, like you're a champ, any champion in something, like, guys like the guys who made so many inventions, going back to Galileo, to, like guys who found the light bulb, are they you consider themselves as spiritual beings, or what? They're scientists, or they have nothing to do with, I mean, today,
Nothing.
for the technology that you and I have to use, if someone did not, guy like Steve Jobs, didn't invent the that Apple technology, the software, whatever, we probably, we won't be having this conversation, and which in other
No,
ways help.
Steve Jobs was a Buddhist.
Oh, really?
He practiced the teaching. That's the only thing he liked. And when he was dying, he was suffering because he didn't practice the Buddhist teaching. So all other scientists are the same. He said, the only consolation for me is not the money I have, but the family being close to me. But that's what can the family do? What can he do for the family now? Nothing.
Great stuff, mate. The what you have said, like, so that, that, I actually, I wasn't aware of his, that his beliefs or whatever. So what you are saying is, you can be whatever, that you can be great in, like, I suppose, we're talking about the Shaolin, the monks, the guys who invented kung fu. They became such brilliant fighters, but very spiritual people. Perhaps their spirituality enhanced the sport that they were involved in. Guys like Bruce Lee, you're talking about, brilliant, that, through mindfulness, they became greater people. And
That's mundane mindfulness,
okay,
not the supramundane.
so another layman's question. I mean, if you embark on a meditation as a sportsman, can that help your, the whatever, the sport that you are involved in, either cricketer, or, can that
Anything,
help?
anything, anything. It will help anything. And everything you touch, it will help.
So you see immediate
Ex-
results, and you become a different person.
Everything you do professionally, it helped me tremendously. Professionally,
In
it helped
decision
me
making, or
tremendously.
your
Yeah,
decision making
everything.
or management. Yeah,
Human, human react interaction, everything. There's a course called Cockpit Resource Management.
right.
There are resource management courses everywhere now, but it started from the cockpit. I read two books. When I finished, I said, I don't need to learn this because I am that. I am what the book said. That's through the meditation, practice of the Buddha teaching.
So yeah, it's
So,
always a yeah. Go on.
cockpit
Yeah,
resource management started in the cockpit. It went into management. It went into uh, all management systems, resource management in everywhere, commercial, in every aspect. There's resource management, CRM. So that started, and that if you are practicing meditation, you don't need to do that. You are that. You are well above that. So benefits are tremendous.
words of
You know
wisdom, Sunil.
something? You know something? You can do this. You must genuinely try. You try, when you try, you will find where your faults are, where you're not doing enough, what you should do more, everything. And you still try. And if you have to die, you can at least say you tried and died.
True.
But if you don't try, you just completely wasted yourself. Everybody who tried may not attain to Nibbana now, but that very genuine try will lead him in the future to attain to Nibbana. So at least what you can do is genuinely try. And I'll tell you, if you genuinely try, there's no way that you cannot do it, provided you have a good backing in the past merit, you will do it. But at least you can say you tried. And that try, that's why that monk told me, whatever Dhamma I talk, you will leave a seed into the future life. That this seed planted into their heads will come into action. You plant a seed on the field and the plant comes out. So you can plant seeds in any field. So like that, you can plant a seed in anybody's mind. It may come up now or it may come up in the future life, but you have planted a good seed.
Very true, Sunil. Taking that initial step, the mindfulness, the awareness, that's where you need to take that first step. I think that's the what do you
Absolutely.
call initial action for a long lasting journey in samsara, hopefully a very short one. Sunil, always absolute pleasure talking to you. Learned a lot.
Uh,
you know
Thank you. Tell all these people who are listening who will write comments,
yes,
but I cannot go through all these comments
understand. Yeah,
because it takes my, and I thank all of them for good or bad comment they have made. If they want to write to me, you can give them my email address or my WhatsApp, and they can write to me anytime they wish.
sure, Sunil.
It
Yeah,
does not bother me.
yeah.
So just I beg for their pardon if I don't answer to them. Sometimes I look at them. But whatever, whichever way, it's a pleasure teaching anybody.
Absolutely. I think there's something, I think teaching someone or passing your wisdom on to others, I think it's something that you can always, at the end of it,
Yeah.
it gives you tremendous pleasure, that I just to tell you that I have started training few boys down Rajagiri, that some of them were like rehabilitated drug addicts, but spending time with them, getting them back into what they're brilliant kids, but somewhere down the line they lost focus and started indulging in all these vices and lost track. Not an easy task getting them back, but these are, that's the whatever you can pass on. That's as a human, that's what you can do. It's always give absolute joy and pleasure, working with them, and that's what
You
life
know,
is.
whatever you do good, sure, it will come back to you. But what is important for you is not to forget about yourself. Don't you leave yourself away. You have a job to do, enlightenment. So while doing the other good work, don't neglect yourself. That's what the Buddha says. Appamado amatapadan, pamado amachinopada.
I
Don't
believe that's
neglect
I,
yourself.
I believe that's from your teaching, being a pilot. First attend to yourself before attending to others. That's what the security instructions say. Isn't that right?
You don't
The-
need them.
Brilliant, Sunil. It's always a pleasure. As you rightly said, thanks a lot to everyone. Sampath, to Ravin, I probably
Thanks
missed
a lot,
out,
Ravi.
mentioning their names. What can you say? Compliments of the season. Year is almost coming to
Happy
an
New
end,
Year.
and Happy New Year. Yes, and maybe that we should have another chat that comes next poet. Try and have another chat. Just to talk to you. What happened to mine? Okay, something. The Marlin, all your past, the flying crew is with you. Amazing, Sunlai. Good to see all your former pursers and the senior flight crew is all talking to you. That's what does Marlin say? Just tune in, Charlie. Captain Sunil, what is the best aircraft? What is the best aircraft you flew, and why? I've fortunately been.
TriStar.
What's the aircraft?
TriStar.
The TriStar. Okay, all right. You flew the L1011 at Alanka somewhere between 88. Sorry, Marlon, I wasn't born then, so I won't be able to to answer that. I can't. Yeah, I remember those TriStars those days. That was, and before all these, the big aircrafts came in. It's brilliant. Again, thanks a lot, Sule. We should
You're
have a chat
welcome.
again sometime. Thanks for your time and the words of wisdom as always, and hopefully that we can all embark on this journey, which I know it's not easier said than done, but you got to be that one hell of a man to take that initial step and to be at it, I know that the more you do it, the better you become. uh,
When the going is tough, the tough gets going.
there you go, sir. Yep, very well said. Once again, thanks all. Good night, Sri Lanka. I think whatever time is in Germany, and I let you go. You probably will go back and get back to your meditation. And pleasure. Thanks everyone, and
Thanks a lot.
thanks for
Good
compliments of
night.
the season. Good night and happy New Year. See you
New
soon.
Year.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Right?